So let's talk about a massive, and I mean massive, shift in American foreign policy. We're looking at a move so bold it could spark a brand new Cold War, but not where you'd expect. Not in Europe, not in Asia, but right here in America's own hemisphere. You're going to want to stick around for this one.
Okay, so where does this all kick off? Well, it starts with one single, jaw-dropping event. Something that looked like one thing on the news, but was actually the first chess move in a much, much bigger game. I want you to just picture this. It's the dead of night in Caracas, Venezuela. Suddenly, the silence is broken by the sound of American helicopters dropping out of the sky, descending on a military compound in a lightning-fast operation. And this thing? It's over in a flash. It's brutally efficient. Before the sun is even up, the sitting president of a country, Nicolas Maduro, is in U.S. custody. The official story they put out? Narco-terrorism. But here's the twist. The raid, the headlines, it wasn't really about Maduro. It wasn't about drugs. It was a message. And the person it was meant for wasn't in Venezuela. The real audience was all the way over in Beijing.
So to really get what's going on here, we've got to rewind. Because while the U.S. was busy with wars in the Middle East and everything else, something huge was happening right under its nose. A takeover, but with 0 shots fired.
Check out this number. Back in the year 2000, trade between China and all of Latin America was about $12 billion. By 2024, it exploded to over $500 billion. That's not just growth, that is a complete economic transformation in just a couple of decades. And all that money has totally redrawn the map. Just look at this. For the major economies in South America, we're talking Brazil, Chile, Peru, Argentina. Who's their #1 trading partner? It's not the US anymore. As you can see, China is now #1. It's a fundamental flip in who holds the economic power.
And you know, this isn't just about buying and selling stuff. China has woven itself into the very fabric of the continent. They're building a massive new megaport in Peru that basically creates a direct highway to Shanghai. They've poured billions into Brazil's power grid, controlling electricity for the biggest cities. And they've locked down access to most of the world's lithium, the stuff you need for basically every battery on the planet.
So, back in Washington, officials are looking at this and thinking, wait a minute. The old Monroe Doctrine, that 200-year-old idea that this is America's backyard, it's been wiped out. Not by an army, but by cargo ships and investment deals. And that realization led to a radical, aggressive new plan to take that influence back. And who gives this new approach its name? Donald Trump himself. This wasn't just him talking. It was the official announcement of a complete U-turn in American foreign policy. So what exactly is the Donroe Doctrine? Well, basically, it's the U.S. saying, all right, playtime's over. It's a new strategy that uses America's full economic and military power to force countries in Latin America to make a choice. You're with us, or you're with Beijing.
And it really boils down to 4 main ideas. First, Latin America is now priority #1, period. Second, the U.S. is going to use economic muscle, tariffs, sanctions, you name it, not just polite diplomacy. Third, and this is a big one, military force is absolutely an option, as we saw in Venezuela. And last, it's the classic carrot and stick. If you're a friend, you get rewarded. If you're not, you get punished. And look, this isn't just some theory stuck in a white paper. It is happening right now, on the ground, and it's squeezing nations across the region, forcing them to pick a side and splitting the continent right down the middle. You can literally see this divide playing out. On one side, you have countries like Argentina, which have jumped firmly into the U.S. camp. But on the other, you have regional giants like Brazil, desperately trying to stay neutral, in a world where Washington is pretty much demanding you choose a team.
And these flashpoints, man, they're popping up everywhere. Mexico is getting squeezed to cut China out of its supply chains. Panama has been given an ultimatum about Chinese influence over the canal. In Bolivia, a new government came in and immediately tore up its lithium deals with China, supposedly for a big U.S. aid package. And in retaliation, some places, like Nicaragua, are talking about a new canal, one backed by China, a direct challenge to the U.S.
So you see all these little fires starting, right? But they're all just symptoms of a much bigger problem. What we're actually watching is the beginning of a long-term structural conflict, a new Cold War being fought for America's own backyard. Now, you might be asking, why doesn't China just back off? Why risk all this? And the answer is pretty simple. It can't. The resources it gets from Latin America,
The iron, the copper, the lithium, these aren't just nice to haves for China, they are the absolute lifeblood of its economy. Losing them would be catastrophic. And this is where things get really, really scary. It creates something called an escalation trap. The U.S. makes a move in its neighborhood, like the raid in Venezuela, and just hours later, China responds in its neighborhood with huge military drills around Taiwan. Each side uses the other's actions to justify their own next move, and the stakes just keep getting higher and higher. A line from one of the sources we looked at just hits the nail on the head. It basically says, this has become a zero-sum game. Either China keeps access to the resources it needs to survive, or America reclaims total dominance in its hemisphere. Both of those things can't happen at the same time. But there's a huge, glaring weakness at the heart of this whole Donroe Doctrine. For the last 20 years, while America was looking the other way, what was China doing? It was building things. Ports, power grids, railroads. America was offering ideas. China was offering concrete. Now the U.S. is trying to force loyalty from countries it kind of ignored for 2 decades.
And that brings us to the big, unanswered question at the end of all this. Is this aggressive new doctrine a brilliant masterstroke that will restore American power? Or is it the final, fatal mistake that pushes the entire region away and loses America its own backyard for good? The fight for the hemisphere is on, and right now, nobody knows how it's going to end.